Mariupol, the Russian-Ukrainian port city in Donetsk at the Sea of Azov. In spring 2014, after the Maidan coup, Donetsk and Lugansk separated from Ukraine and became independent people's republics. Ukraine didn't accept the separation and conquered the city. In April 2022, after the Russian invasion, there were months of heavy fighting between the Russians and Ukrainian armies, especially at Mariupol's steel factory Azovstal. It resulted in an enormous destruction of the city. After the Russian takeover and the end of the Ukrainian occupation in 2022, they started to rebuild the city. This is an edit of video images of the reconstruction of Mariupol by citizen and podcast maker Nikolay Pilchuk. Nikolay, welcome to the program. First of all, can you tell me something about your personal background? Who are you?
Okay. I was born in Donetsk 19 years ago, and back in 2014, when everything started, I moved to Mariupol with my family, and I lived in Mariupol for most of my life. And when the full-scale war started in 2022, I survived street fightings and stayed in Mariupol. And I left to Rostov later, a year after fightings finished. But I still visit in Mariupol every week because it's still my home.
Yes.
So, yes.
For the audience, Rostov on Don is 160 kilometers east of Mariupol, and it's in the mainland Russia, big city. What do you study there?
I study precise sciences like math and programming.
Okay. Let's go back to 2014, right? Because the Donetsk and Lugansk separated from Ukraine in 2014. You were very young then, but you still lived already in Mariupol. Can you give an image?
No, but then I lived in Donetsk.
Oh, you lived in Donetsk. Okay, but maybe you can give an image of what happened in Donetsk and what happened in Mariupol in 2014.
Everything started in 2013. I remember I was really a child, but I remember how we watched TV, and there were protests in Kiev on Maidan, and there was a revolution against Russia and join Europe. And as far as I can remember, my family and all of people I spoke with, like parents of my friends, parents of my classmates, my grandparents, everyone were against this turn. And Donetsk just rebelled against all of this, against this revolution of dignity. It is called in Ukrainian. And so Donetsk rebelled, and I remember referendum in 11th of May. My school was, how to say it, an area to vote. I don't know precise word, but never mind. And I remember how everything voted to be separated from Ukraine. And I also remember how Crimea joined Russia, and we wanted Donetsk to join like this too.
Right. And there was a very anti-Ukraine feeling. There was an anti-Maidan feeling. And this was, in fact, the basis that they organized the referenda in which they separated from the Ukraine. Can I say that like this?
Yes.
Then the period between 2014 and 2022, you came as a youngster. You came in Mariupol. I mean, your parents, in fact, right?
Yes, because we had friends there, and we rented cheap apartments from our friends, and also my father worked on Illicha steel plant because in Donetsk there were troubles with metallurgy. And I lived in Mariupol under Ukrainian rule since 2022. Before 2022.
Yeah, before 2022. Did people feel that as well, like this? They are under Ukraine rule. They feel oppressed or not? They accepted it.
Most of people were neutral and liked Russia, but passively, and didn't like Ukrainian laws against Russian language, because in Mariupol there is only Russian language. And there were some pro-Ukrainians, mostly very active people, but there were very few of them. 10%, maybe less.
Right. You are in fact Russian speaking. Actually, everyone in Donetsk and Lugansk is in fact Russian speaking, but there's a minority who have Ukraine as first language. Is that right?
Only very old people and few very old people speaks on mix between Russian and Ukrainian, Surzhyk, but very few. And it's only in Donetsk. In Mariupol, I never heard Ukrainian or Surzhyk. Maybe I heard, but very few times.
Right, and but the majority of people of middle-aged and young people speak Russian.
Yes,
and they feel themselves as well Russian. Can you say that?
It's hard question. There is no difference between Russian and Ukrainian. Like, my family is from Ukraine. I have Ukrainian accent, and who am I? I don't know, because I am from Russian culture and Russian language. So it's no difference. It's one nation.
Right. You and what you say is this feeling of one nation. That's, I mean, the most people there have this feeling that there is one nation. There is no difference.
Yes, but since 2022, many pro-Ukrainian people started to be separated, to learn Ukrainian and stop using Russian. And it's my last video about it, to, like, how to say it, pretend that they are not Russians. But in fact, all of neutral people and pro-Russian, of course, thinks that we are one nation.
Right. Right. You mean farther than only Donetsk and Lugansk, but as well people more from the west. I mean, people in Kiev, a lot of people in Kiev feel that as well.
In Kiev, there are a lot of pro-Ukrainians, maybe most. And I know that in the Western Ukraine, like, I had a conversation with one Ukrainian guy from Lvov. There are people who have Ukrainian as their native, and they are a little bit different from us. So it's only East are same nation with Russia, and all of Eastern Ukraine, like map of Novorossiya, you know, it's with Kharkov, Dnipro, Odessa.
You got a feeling that your view is shared in the majority of people in Odessa, Dnipro, and Kharkov?
Pro-Russian and neutral people in Dnipro and Kharkiv and Odessa are silenced, and they can't say what they think because there are security services and they will be punished for their opinion. But speaking about all Russian-controlled territory, like Donetsk, Lugansk, and Zaporozhye, Kherson, Crimea, of course, they are Russian, and yes, that's majority of people thinks this.
And you consider the Ukraine as a police state, I mean an oppressive police state on this view?
Of course, it's obvious.
And how do you consider this situation in what the Russians call the new territories? It's not an oppressive state?
Of course not. At least you can live from here. Like, you can, with no problems, go to Russia, to Europe, to whatever, wherever you want to. And Ukraine has closed borders, and only for men, because they are mobilizing everyone. And media control, informational, free speech in Russia is better than in Ukraine. It's still far from perfect, but in Ukraine, everything many times worse.
Right. You said in one of your videos, Ukraine went crazy. Yes. What do you mean by that?
I already said it, that Ukrainians are pretending that they are not Russians, and they are not even brothers for Russia, a separate nation, and superior above Russia, and more how to say it, like ancient, I don't know, but the Ukrainians founded fully Rus and schizophrenia, yeah. And there is propaganda of all of it in school and universities and in the internet on the Ukrainian side. And this is far from reality.
Right. What happened after the Russian takeover in 2022?
Mariupol was completely destroyed because Ukraine used us as a life shield, and there was no electricity, no water, no communication, and Mariupol was completely ruined. But then Russia invested a lot of money, and this is what my channel is about. And a lot of people returned later, and now Mariupol is just casual city, like in Russia and Ukraine, just a usual peaceful city.
Right. Well, we from the West had any idea what happened in Ukraine. There were months of the Battle of Mariupol, and then there was the Battle of Azovstal, right? You went to school in Mariupol. I mean, the schools were stopping. Where did you stay?
In April 2020, in 22nd of April 2022, 2 months after the battle started, I left to Donetsk. I was evacuated, and I lived in Donetsk later. And I lived in Donetsk like 2 or 3 months, and then I returned to Mariupol, which was completely destroyed place.
Right.
And I stayed there. And in September, the schools in Mariupol were opened, and we had already electricity in June, and water in June, and gas in September. So
yeah.
Mariupol
was your own home was destroyed as well or not?
I'm very lucky it's undamaged.
Right. The home of your family was still there.
Yes, it's.
Yeah, but there was a lot of destruction, and
of course,
you say it was taken over in spring, and in September the schools were opening again.
First schools were opened even before battle for Mariupol was finished. I even visited it for 2 days in the middle of April or in the end of April. Right. In 2022, even before Mariupol was liberated, schools were all opened.
Right. You define yourself as a Ukrainian or as a Russian now?
I prefer to say Russian because for most of us, for Ukrainians, for Russians, for people of Donbass, if you are saying you are Russian, it means you support Russia. If you are saying you are Ukrainian, it means you support Ukraine. So I'm Russian. And it's not about ethnicity or something like this, because all of Donbass can be considered as ethnic Ukrainian, but if you're saying you're Russian, you're Russian. This is like this.
Right. We know that in the end of September 2022, there were, referenda in Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson, right? Maybe you can describe. I mean, it was for 3 days, and after that, the results came there, and on basis of the result, I think on the 1st of October 2022, these areas, these people republics, decided to be part of the Russian Federation, right? Maybe you can tell something about the process of voting and how it went through your eyes.
I was 17 years old, so I had no right to vote, and I know many people who voted for Russia, and that's all because I didn't take part.
These results are the real results. They're not manipulated results.
These results are real, and I don't know any people who voted for stay separated from Russia or from Ukraine, whatever, against Russia. I don't know such people.
Everyone.
And I know people who voted for Russia.
Right. Everyone was glad to vote for Russia and be away from Ukraine. Can I say that?
Of course.
You know any people, or you have any idea how many people on the moment wanted to be part of Ukraine?
I changed two schools in Mariupol, and in each I had one or two guys who were pro-Ukrainian, and all of them were gonna leave Mariupol and go to Kiev or to Dnieper or wherever else after they will finish the school. And they didn't hide their opinion, and I don't know. I think they already left. It was 2 years ago.
Do you have any idea what people in Kharkov and Odessa are thinking in the proportions? I mean, are they on the side of Russia? Are they on the side of Ukraine? And when they are divided, what do you think are the proportions in which they are pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia?
Most of people are neutral, and I can say this for sure, just as everywhere, just as wherever. They don't care, and they will support current government, whatever government it will be. But speaking about active supporters, I think there are enough Russian supporters in Odessa, because some partisans are targeting, sending to Russian army photos and data about military objects. And I have also got some comments from guys who said, from men and women who said that they are from Odessa and they supported Russia. And I've seen researches before war about attitude towards Russia, and Odessa was maybe third pro-Russian city after Mariupol and Severodonetsk. So I think there are enough pro-Russian people, but they are silenced by government.
Right. You're 19 years old by yourself, so I know there is a conscription in Russia as well as in Ukraine. The conscription is about 1 year. You're not afraid that they will take you and send you to the front?
Russia don't need this. We have enough volunteers, and there are a lot of money for soldiers, and society of Russia is supporting soldiers, like a lot of volunteers, and many people are ready to fight, and I don't think mobilization will be necessary. And I'm also studying in university, and even Ukraine didn't mobilize students despite there is total mobilization in Ukraine, like in Russia.
What you say, there is no need for mobilization from students or other young people who are not professionals. But
there is no mobilization at all in Russia.
What?
There is no mobilization at all in Russia, only volunteer fighting.
Right. There is a total mobilization in Ukraine, right?
Yes. There are a lot of videos in Telegram channels where people, they call it TSK, TSK workers are just grabbing the men from streets.
Right. Next question. The Kiev government wants to take back the city of Mariupol and the territories. They get weapons and support from the West. What is your reaction on that?
I definitely don't want it just as everywhere. I know even people who are neutral, even people who don't like Russia and don't like Putin, and no one wants Ukraine just because city will be destroyed for the second time. It's one of the reasons for neutral people and for anti-Russian people to still to be at least neutral or pro-Russian. And no one wants Ukraine also because Mariupol was reconstructed from ashes for, I got electricity a month later after the fightings. And there are cities that Ukraine returned, like Kupiansk and Kharkov Oblast. And I've heard that they are much less ruined than Mariupol was. but still there was no electricity for like 3-4 months after Ukraine recaptured it. So Ukraine has no funds to develop Mariupol. Mariupol will be a dead city if Ukraine will take it, and also Ukrainian, how to say it, fanatics want to slaughter all Russians. So the choice is obvious for all of us.
Right. The former Dutch Prime Minister, maybe you know him, Mr. Rutte, is now the new Secretary of General of NATO, right? He's the new chef of NATO. He wants to prolong the war and make Ukraine part of NATO. What do you want to say to him?
It's not going to happen. Never.
It is not going to happen.
Of course. Or there will be World War III.
This is a receipt for World War III. This is what you say.
Of
right.
Course.
When Ukraine will be part of NATO, this will be a receipt for World War III.
Yes.
And when do you think the main reconstruction of Mariupol will be finished? Is it finished already, or how many years do we?
It isn't finished yet. I think a year or two more, and all of big apartment buildings will be reconstructed and repaired. And also most of new buildings will be finished, and later there will be only developing new buildings for sale for people who want to move to Mariupol from Russia, and maybe things like beaches or some entertainments, because Russia is going to make Mariupol a touristic city. But I think Mariupol is already alive, so if the question is about when Mariupol will be reconstructed, I think it's already reconstructed.
Right. Okay. Do you see a good future for yourself and your family and neighborhood in Mariupol? You're positive about the future?
I will return to Mariupol when I will finish my study, because right now I'm visited every week, and I'm still want to live there, because their universities in Mariupol are worse than in big Russian cities, obviously, because there is a worse organization, because these universities were destroyed and now they're rebuilt. So I had to go to Rostov to study here, but I will return to Mariupol when I will get my grade.
Okay. Nikolay, thank you very much for this interview. And I wish you a lot of success. I wish you study and afterwards your life in Mariupol.
Thanks.